August 17, 1944, 2:47 p.m., near the village of Argentan, northern France, inside the commander's cupola of a Panther AUSF G-tank, Hauptmann Otto Müller feels the world explode into orange flame. The P-47 Thunderbolt's 50 caliber rounds have punctured the engine deck. Aviation fuel ignites instantly. The temperature inside the steel coffin rises from 90 degrees Fahrenheit to over 400 in less than 8 seconds. Müller's uniform catches fire. The Panzerwaffe black wool burns against his skin like napalm. Before we continue with Otto Müller's incredible story, we need your help to keep these forgotten heroes alive. If you're already hooked by what you're hearing, hit that like button right now. It tells YouTube to share this with more people who care about real history. Subscribe to this channel so you never miss another story of courage and innovation from World War II. And here's something we love. Drop a comment below and tell us where you're watching from, your country, your city. We have viewers from Buenos Aires to Berlin, from Manila to Montreal. Are you a veteran? Did your grandfather serve? Do you have a connection to this war? We want to hear from you. Now back to Argentan, France, where Otto Müller was trapped inside 45 tons of burning German steel. His crew bails out through the belly hatch. Müller can't follow. His left boot is wedged between the turret traverse mechanism and the ammunition rack. He pulls. The leather tears. His leg won't come free. Smoke fills his lungs. He tastes copper and gasoline. Through the vision slit, he sees American soldiers from the 4th Armored Division advancing across the wheat field. They're Sherman's 300 yards away. These are the men trying to kill him. These are the men about to save his life. Otto Müller was born in 1919 in Heidelberg, the son of a philosophy professor. At 5'7" and 140 pounds, he was too small for the infantry, too bookish for the SS. The Panzerwaffe took him because he could do complex mathematics in his head, essential for calculating firing solutions on moving targets. He never joined the Nazi Party. He wore the uniform because refusing meant a camp in Dachau for his entire family. By August 1944, Müller had commanded his Panther for 14 months. He'd survived the Eastern Front, where tank crews had a 67% mortality rate. He'd survived Kursk, where he watched 17 Panthers burn in a single afternoon. His crew called him Der Professor because he quoted Goethe before every engagement and kept a worn copy of Faust in his map case. His gunner was Unteroffizier Hans Brandt, 21. From Munich, Brandt talked endlessly about opening a motorcycle shop after the war. Brandt's speed shop, he'd say, best BMW repairs in Bavaria. You'll be my accountant, Herr Hauptmann. They'd shake hands on it, a ritual before every battle. Brandt died 3 days before Argentan. A Sherman round penetrated the Panther's lower hull at 200 meters, a statistically impossible shot. The tungsten penetrator turned Brandt into red mist. Müller held his gunner's dog tags as the boy's blood cooled on the turret floor. No time for burial. They shoved the body out the escape hatch and kept fighting. Between June 6th and August 17th, 1944, German tank crews in Normandy suffered 73% casualties. Most burned to death. Panzers didn't explode cleanly like in Hollywood films. They cooked their crews slowly, fuel fires reaching 800 degrees Fahrenheit. Tankers called it brewing up. British Commonwealth crews called it burning. Everyone knew what it meant. The problem wasn't Allied air superiority. The problem wasn't superior numbers. The problem was that German tanks, despite their technical sophistication, were death traps. The Panther's gasoline engine sat directly beneath a thin armor deck. One incendiary round, and the entire crew compartment became a crematorium. In that burning Panther on August 17th, Müller stops pulling at his trapped leg. He accepts death. He's watched 32 tanks burn in 2 months. His turn has come. Then he hears English. There's someone still inside. Leave him. He's a Jerry. I don't give a damn. Nobody burns. Three American soldiers from the 4th Armored Division's 37th Tank Battalion run toward the Flaming Panther. Staff Sergeant James McKenna from Pittsburgh, Private First Class Robert Chen from San Francisco, Private Eugene Washington from Mississippi. They're carrying fire extinguishers and a crowbar. The tactical situation is insane. German infantry are 400 yards north, still firing. American tanks are still shooting at retreating German vehicles. The battlefield is chaos, and 3 American soldiers are risking their lives to save an enemy who was trying to kill them 7 minutes ago. McKenna climbs onto the burning hull. The metal sears through his gloves. Chen and Washington spray extinguishers into the engine compartment, fighting flames that keep reigniting. McKenna peers into the commander's cupola and sees Muller conscious, uniform burning, trying to free his leg. "Hold still!" McKenna shouts in English. Muller doesn't understand the words, but understands the tone. He stops moving. McKenna wedges the crowbar into the turret traverse mechanism. Chen climbs up, despite the heat, and adds his strength. The mechanism bends. Muller's boot comes free. They pull him out through the cupola, 31 seconds before the ammunition cooks off and the entire turret explodes skyward. Muller collapses in the wheat field. His face is red and blistering. His hands are black. The Panzerwaffe uniform has melted into the skin of his chest and arms. He's conscious and screaming. Washington tears open his medic pouch and injects morphine directly into Muller's thigh. 0. 6 milliliters, standard dose for severe trauma. An American M8 Greyhound armored car arrives. The commander, Lieutenant David Shapiro, sees the German tank commander uniform, the distinctive black with death's head insignia and silver piping. "Why'd you pull him out?" Shapiro asks. McKenna doesn't hesitate. "Because he's a human being." They load Muller onto a jeep. The morphine dulls the pain, but not the burning sensation that feels like his entire body is still on fire. They drive him 8 miles to the 128th Evacuation Hospital, a field medical unit operating out of requisitioned farm buildings near Alençon. What Muller doesn't know, what nobody knows yet, is that he's about to become a test case for medical techniques that will revolutionize burn treatment forever. At the 128th Evacuation Hospital, Major William Patterson, a 34-year-old surgeon from Boston, examines Muller with grim efficiency. Third-degree burns cover 38% of his body: face, neck, both hands, chest, and upper arms. In 1944, burns covering more than 30% of the body are almost always fatal. The mortality rate is 89%. The problem isn't just tissue damage. The problem is infection. Burned skin can't fight bacteria. Before antibiotics, burn victims died from sepsis within days, their bodies consumed by Streptococcus and Staphylococcus. Even with sulfur drugs, the prognosis is grim. But Patterson has recently received new medical literature from the Army Medical Corps Research Division. British doctors treating bomber crews and American Navy physicians treating shipfire victims have developed revolutionary approaches. Patterson has read the reports but never tried the techniques. He's never had a patient survive long enough. Muller is different. He's young, 25 years old. He's physically fit. The Americans rescued him within minutes, preventing smoke inhalation damage to his lungs. And Patterson has just received a shipment of a new experimental drug, silver sulfadiazine, a topical antibiotic specifically designed for burns. That night, August 17th, in a converted barn lit by generator-powered surgical lamps, Patterson makes a decision that defies conventional military medicine. He's going to save this German tank commander, not because of politics, not because of propaganda value, because it's medically possible, and Patterson took an oath to do no harm. The first step is radical debridement, removing all dead tissue. Patterson and 2 nurses spend 4 hours cutting away charred skin, a process so painful that even morphine barely helps. Muller passes in and out of consciousness, screaming in German. The nurses hold him down. One of them, Lieutenant Sarah Mitchell from Vermont, whispers to him in broken German she learned in high school, "Es wird besser, du wirst überleben. It will get better, you will survive." The second step is more revolutionary. Patterson performs a split-thickness skin graft using the Reverdin-Tiersch method, recently refined by British surgeon Sir Archibald Mackindoe at the Queen Victoria Hospital. The technique involves taking thin layers of healthy skin from unburned areas of the patient's body, in Müller's case, his thighs and lower back, and transplanting them to cover the burned areas. The grafts are incredibly thin, only 0.3 millimeters, roughly the thickness of tissue paper. Patterson uses a surgical knife called a dermatome, cutting strips of skin with meticulous precision. Each strip is 2 inches wide and up to 8 inches long. He harvests 127 individual grafts over 6 hours. The technique is brutally simple and brutally painful. No anesthetic can completely numb the donor sites. Müller screams until his voice breaks, but it works. Patterson places the grafts onto Müller's burned face, hands and chest, securing them with fine silk sutures. Then comes the experimental part. He applies silver sulfadiazine cream directly to every grafted area. The cream, developed just months earlier by American chemists, creates a barrier against bacteria while promoting healing. The surgery takes 11 hours. When it's done, Müller looks like a mummy, his entire upper body wrapped in gauze soaked in saline and sulfadiazine. Patterson gives him a 40% chance of survival. Over the next 8 days, Müller fights for his life. His body temperature spikes to 104 degrees, sepsis setting in despite the antibiotics. Patterson prescribes massive doses of penicillin, another recent miracle drug. 4 million units per day, injected intramuscularly every 4 hours. Müller receives blood plasma transfusions to replace lost fluids, 16 units in the first week. His kidneys nearly fail. He develops pneumonia in his right lung. But the skin grafts hold. On August 25th, 8 days after the burning, Patterson carefully removes some bandages to inspect the grafts. Half have failed, turned black and necrotic, but the other half have begun to integrate, new blood vessels forming microscopic connections between Müller's own skin and the grafts. Patterson performs a second surgery, removing failed grafts and replacing them with new ones, then a third surgery, then a fourth. By September 1944, word spreads through the medical corps. An American surgeon is saving a German tank commander with experimental burn treatment. Some doctors are horrified, wasting resources on an enemy. Others are fascinated by the medical achievement. Colonel Robert Hayes, the hospital's commanding officer, confronts Patterson. "Major, we have American boys dying in triage. Why are you spending 40% of your surgical time on a German?" Patterson's response is calm and unyielding. "Because medicine doesn't take sides, sir, and because if we can perfect these techniques on him, we'll save hundreds of our own men." Hayes doesn't court-martial him. He doesn't even reprimand him. He just nods and walks away. Over 9 months, Müller undergoes 23 reconstructive surgeries. The 128th Evacuation Hospital follows the advancing Allied armies, and Müller is transferred repeatedly, first to Paris, then to a military hospital in southern England, finally to a U.S. Army medical facility in Maryland. Each surgery refines the grafts, removes scar tissue, and restores function. Patterson, promoted to lieutenant colonel, personally oversees every procedure. Müller's face will never look normal. The grafts leave permanent discoloration and texture differences. His hands are clawed, the fingers contracted from scar tissue. But he can see, breathe, eat, and use his hands with 60% of normal function. Throughout treatment, Müller never tries to escape. He cooperates fully with doctors and nurses. He learns English from Sarah Mitchell, who visits him regularly. He reads American newspapers and, for the first time, learns the full truth about Nazi concentration camps. He reads about Auschwitz, about Treblinka, about the systematic murder of 6 million Jews. In March 1945, still in a Maryland hospital, Müller writes a letter to his parents in Heidelberg. He doesn't know if they're alive. Mail service to Germany is non-existent. The Red Cross eventually delivers it in July 1945, after the German surrender. I believed we fought honorably. I was wrong. The uniform I wore served a regime that committed crimes beyond human comprehension. The Americans who saved my life, the soldiers, the doctors, the nurses, showed me what true honor means. They saved the enemy who was trying to kill them. They didn't ask about my politics. They saw a human being burning and they acted. I will spend the rest of my life trying to deserve that mercy. In May 1945, when Germany surrenders, Müller is still in treatment. He's technically a prisoner of war, but the hospital staff treats him like any other patient. He listens to the radio as Harry Truman announces VE Day. He doesn't celebrate. He doesn't mourn. He simply feels relief that the killing has stopped. American military intelligence interrogates him extensively, not about tactical information, obsolete now that the war is over, but about his treatment. They want to document the medical procedures for future battlefield medicine. Müller cooperates fully, describing every surgery in detail, every moment of pain, every moment of hope. In August 1945, 1 year after his burning, Müller is repatriated to Germany as part of a prisoner exchange. He returns to Heidelberg to find his parents' house destroyed by Allied bombing, but his mother and father alive, living with relatives. His father, the philosophy professor, has been dismissed from the university for refusing to join the Nazi party. The family is poor, living on rationed bread and potato soup. Müller's appearance shocks his parents. The grafted skin on his face has a patchwork appearance, lighter and darker sections, different textures. His hands are permanently scarred, the fingers slightly curved. But he's alive, functional, and 26 years old. He goes to work in a machine shop. His mathematics skills and remaining hand function allow him to operate precision lathes. The shop foreman, a former Wehrmacht soldier who lost an arm at Stalingrad, doesn't ask about Müller's scars. Everyone in Germany has scars now, visible or otherwise. Müller never speaks publicly about his experience. He marries Ingrid, a war widow, in 1948. They have 2 children, a son in 1950, a daughter in 1952. He works at the machine shop for 37 years, retiring in 1982. His co-workers know him as quiet, competent, and unfailingly precise. They don't know he was a panzer commander. They don't know American doctors performed 23 surgeries to save him. In 1963, he receives a letter from Boston. William Patterson, now a civilian burn surgeon and professor at Harvard Medical School, has been trying to locate him for years. Patterson's letter explains that the techniques used to save Müller became standard protocol for treating burn victims. The split-thickness skin graft method, combined with silver sulfadiazine, reduced burn mortality rates from 89% to 43% by 1950. By 1960, survival rates reached 72%. Patterson writes, "Otto, you were patient 0 for modern burn treatment. The 23 surgeries we performed on you taught us everything we needed to know. Conservative estimates suggest that the techniques we developed while treating you have saved more than 40,000 lives worldwide, including American soldiers in Korea and Vietnam, but also civilians, children, accident victims. You helped us learn how to heal." Müller writes back, "I did nothing but survive. The credit belongs to you and the soldiers who pulled me from that fire. I was the enemy, and you saved me anyway. That act of mercy taught me more about humanity than 12 years of Nazi propaganda ever destroyed." The 2 men correspond until Patterson's death in 1987. They never meet in person. Müller's finances never allow for international travel, and Patterson's medical career keeps him perpetually busy. But the letters continue, filled with discussions of medicine, philosophy, and the strange grace that can emerge from war's worst moments. In September 1994, a medical historian named Dr. Rachel Weinstein from Georgetown University publishes a paper in the Journal of Military Medicine. Battlefield Innovation: The Development of Modern Burn Treatment During WA2. The paper includes extensive interviews with surviving nurses and doctors from the 128th Evacuation Hospital. It mentions Müller by name, crediting him as the German tank commander whose treatment revolutionized burn care. Weinstein contacts Müller in Heidelberg. He's 75 years old now, retired, living with Ingrid in a small apartment. She asks if she can interview him. He agrees. She spends 3 days recording his memories. He describes the burning, the smell of his own flesh cooking, the taste of smoke and gasoline. He describes McKenna, Chen, and Washington risking their lives to save him. He describes Patterson's gentle hands and Sarah Mitchell's whispered German. He describes every surgery, every moment of pain, every moment when he thought he might die. At the end of the interview, Weinstein asks, "Do you consider yourself a hero?" Müller laughs, a dry, bitter sound. "Absolutely not. I wore the uniform of a criminal regime. I fired on Allied soldiers doing their duty. The heroes are the men who pulled me from that fire when they should have left me to burn. The heroes are the doctors who spent 9 months saving the enemy. I'm just a man who got lucky and lived long enough to regret his choices." Otto Müller dies on December 3, 2001, at age 82, from congestive heart failure. The obituary in the Heidelberger Tageblatt mentions his work at the machine shop, his wife and 2 children, his 4 grandchildren. It doesn't mention that he commanded a Panther tank. It doesn't mention that American doctors used him to revolutionize burn treatment. 3 people attend his funeral beyond immediate family: a nephew, a former co-worker, and Dr. Rachel Weinstein, who flies from Washington to Heidelberg to pay her respects. In 2003, the U.S. Army Medical Department Museum at Fort Sam Houston, Texas, opens an exhibit on battlefield medicine innovation. One section covers burn treatment development. There's a photograph of William Patterson in surgical garb. There's a diagram of the split-thickness skin graft technique. And there's a small plaque. Hauptmann Otto Müller, German Army, 1919-2001. Treated by U.S. Army surgeons after severe burns, August 1944. His treatment became the foundation for modern burn care protocols, saving tens of thousands of lives. No medals, no parades, just a plaque in a small military museum in Texas, seen by perhaps 300 visitors per year. But in hospitals worldwide, when a burn victim arrives at the emergency room, doctors still use the techniques William Patterson developed while treating a German tank commander he had every reason to let die. Split-thickness grafts, silver sulfadiazine, aggressive debridement, serial surgeries, plasma transfusion protocols. Medical students learn these procedures without knowing their origin. ER doctors apply them without thinking about the burning panther in a French wheat field. The techniques work. They save lives. That's all that matters. In war, we remember the warriors, the generals, the fighter aces, the heroes. We forget the quiet mercy, the enemy saved, the doctor who refused to discriminate, the 3 soldiers who risked death to pull a burning man from his tank. Otto Müller survived what should have been certain death because 3 Americans saw a human being instead of a uniform, and because 1 surgeon believed that medicine transcends war. If this story moved you, hit that like button. Subscribe to this channel to hear more forgotten stories from World War II, and tell us in the comments, where are you watching from? Do you know someone whose life was saved by modern burn treatment? Have you served in the military, or did someone in your family? These stories survive only because people like you care enough to remember. Thank you for keeping their memory alive.